Nectar of Devotion, Chapter 8, Offenses to be Avoided. The offenses against the chanting of the holy name are as follows. First, to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. Second, to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. Sometimes the atheistic class of men take it that any demigod is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, propagating but one who is a devotee of the Lord knows that no demigod, to consider however great he may be, is independently as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, if someone thinks that he can chant Kali, Kali or Durga, Durga, and it is the same as Hare Krishna, that is the greatest offense. Third, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. Fourth, to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. Fifth, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. Sixth, to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. Seventh, to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name of the Lord. Because by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can be freed from all kinds of sinful reactions. It should not be taken that one may continue to act sinfully and after that chant Hare Krishna to neutralize his sins. Such a mentality is very offensive and should be avoided. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, Karma Kanda. 9th, to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. Anyone can take part in chanting the holy name of the Lord, but in the beginning one should not be instructed about the transcendental potency of the Lord. Those who are too sinful cannot appreciate the transcendental glories of the Lord, and therefore it is better not to instruct them in this matter. 10th, to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names, and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. It's Sunday, April 26th, and welcome everyone to the reading of the Delhi edition of the Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, the founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Hare Krishna movement. The class is being conducted by His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa, who is a senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He saw Srila Prabhupada as a teenager and soon joined the Hare Krishna movement in the 1960s. He received first initiation from Srila Prabhupada in August 1969. He was instrumental in funding the construction of three major temples, the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, India, and the Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir in Mayapur near Calcutta, West Bengal, and the Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan Temple in Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh. He traveled extensively throughout South India with Guru Kripa Swami in 1972 and 1973, and in 1975 and 1976 with Achyutananda Swami. He was also made in charge of the installation of the deities in the Hyderabad temple in 1976 and the temple in Fiji in 1977. In late 1976, Srila Prabhupada also selected him to manage the Bhaktivedanta Swami Gurukul in Vrindavan. So now, without further delay, I would like to turn the class over to him. And just as a reminder, if everybody could please keep their microphone muted unless the speaker calls up them to say something. Thank you. Hare Krishna. And welcome newcomers and welcome people who have returned.
Thank you very much for that. So today we're celebrating the appearance day of Srimati Sita-devi, the consort of Lord Ramachandra. Very important day for Vaishnavas. As we know, Lord Ramachandra is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, and his wife, Sita-devi, is appeared. We're celebrating it today. And then there's also the appearance day of Sri Madhu Pandit, the Disappearance Day, who was one of the personal associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Srimati Jahnava Devi, her appearance day, who is the wife of Lord Nityananda. So let us read a few selected passages from Srila Prabhupada from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 2, Chapter 7, text number 23. Due to his causeless mercy upon all living entities within the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with his plenary extensions, appeared in the family of Maharaj Ikshvaku as the Lord of his internal potency, Sita. Under the order of his father, Maharaj Dasaratha, he entered the forest and lived there for considerable years with his wife and younger brother, Ravana, who was very materially powerful with 10 heads on his shoulders, committed a great offense against him and was thus ultimately vanquished. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Rama is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his brothers, namely Bharata, Lakshmana, and Shatrugna, are his plenary expansions. All four brothers are Vishnu Tattva and were never ordinary human beings. There are many unscrupulous and ignorant commentators on Ramayana who present the younger brothers of Lord Ramachandra as ordinary living entities. But here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the most authentic scripture on the science of Godhead, it is clearly stated that his brothers were his plenary expansions. Originally, Lord Ramachandra is the incarnation of Vasudeva, Lakshmana is the incarnation of Samkarsana, Bharata is the incarnation of Pradyumna, and Shatrugna is the incarnation of Aniruddha, expansions of the personality of Godhead. Lakshmi Ji Sita is the internal potency of the Lord and is neither an ordinary woman nor the external potency incarnation of Durga. Durga is the external potency of the Lord, and she's associated with Lord Shiva. Next, we have a statement from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, Chapter 20, text 25. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. All the forms of the Lord are eternal. It is the devotee's inclination to worship a particular form, and he engages in devotional service in that form. In a verse in the Ramayana, Hanuman, the great devotee of Rama, said, I know that there's no difference between the Sita-Rama and Lakshmi Narayana forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but nevertheless the form of Rama and Sita has absorbed my affection and love. Therefore, I want to see the Lord in the forms of Rama and Sita. Similarly, Gaudiya Vaishnava loved the form of Radha and Krishna and Rukmini at Dwarka. The words Bhaktanam Anurupatma Darshanam mean that the Lord is always pleased to favor the devotee in the particular form in which the devotee wants to worship and render service unto him. In this verse, it is stated that Brahma approached Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This form of the Lord is Kshiro Dakshayi Vishnu. Next, Srila Prabhupada describes in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, text number 36. In the purport, Prabhupada explains, when one is trained to become conscious of his position, he understands that he is the servitor of the Lord. Brahman refers to a state of self-realization. Even the third-class devotee, who is not advanced in knowledge of the absolute truth, but simply offers obeisances with great devotion, thinks of the Lord, sees the Lord in the temple, and brings forth flowers and fruits to offer to the deity, becomes imperceptibly liberated. Shraddhayan Vitaha. With great devotions, the devotees offer worshipful respects and paraphernalia to the deity. The deities of Radha and Krishna, Lakshmi and Narayana, and Rama and Sita are very attractive to devotees, so much so that when they see the statue decorated in the temple of the Lord, they become fully absorbed in thought of the Lord. That is the state of liberation. In other words, it is confirmed herewith that even a third-class devotee is in the transcendental position, above those who are trying for liberation by speculation or by other methods. Even great impersonalists like Shukadev Goswami and the four Kumaras were attracted by the beauty of the deities in the temple, by the decorations and by the aroma of tulasi offered to the Lord, and they became devotees. Even though they were in the liberated state, instead of remaining impersonalists, they were attracted by the beauty of the Lord and became devotees. I just want to point out something in this purport by Srila Prabhupada, maybe if you can go back a little bit. In this particular purport, Prabhupada explains how neophytes, even neophytes in a third-class position, by engaging in seeing the Devi and offering obeisances, becomes imperceptibly liberated. Because sometimes devotees think, well, there's the Mahabhagavat, the pure devotee, Tamadikari, and everybody else is a conditioned soul. Not completely, not necessarily. Very important statement by Srila Prabhupada, that even a third-class devotee is in the transcendental position above those who are trying for liberation by speculation or by other methods. Very important point. Let us proceed to the next verse. Srila Prabhupada explains in Canto number 3, chapter 28, text number 29, purport. The Lord appears in the particular form loved by a particular type of devotee. There are millions of forms of the Lord, but they are one absolute. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam, Brahma Samhita 5:33. All the different forms of the Lord are one, but some devotees want to see him in the form of Radha and Krishna. Others prefer him as Sita and Ramachandra. Others would see him as Lakshmi Narayana. And others want to see him as 400 Narayana Vasudeva. The Lord has innumerable forms, and he appears in a particular form as preferred by a particular type of devotee. A yogi is advised to meditate upon the forms that are approved by devotees. A yogi cannot imagine a form for meditation. Those so-called yogis who manufacture the circle or target are engaged in nonsense. Actually, a yogi cannot... A yogi must meditate upon the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that has been experienced by the Lord's pure devotees. Yogi means devotee. Yogis who are not actually pure devotees should follow in the footsteps of devotees. It is especially mentioned here that the yogi should meditate upon the form which is thus approved. He cannot manufacture a form of the Lord. Very important point. We are again statements from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, text 31, text 47. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is beyond the material creation. It is admitted even by impersonalists like Shankaracharya that Narayana is transcendental to this material creation. As such, when one actually engages in the service of the Lord in various forms, either Narayana or Radha Krishna or Sita Rama, he is understood to be on the platform of liberation. The Bhagavatam also confirms that liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position. Since a living entity is eternally the servitor of the Supreme Lord, when one seriously and sincerely engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is situated in the position of liberation. One should try to associate with a liberated person, and then the problems of life, namely birth and death, can be solved. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 15, text number 3, purport. The significance of the goddess of fortunes never being separated from the Lord is clearly mentioned herein. People in the material world are very fond of the goddess of fortune, and they want her favor in the form of riches. They should know, however, that the goddess of fortune is inseparable from Lord Vishnu. Materialists should understand that the goddess of fortune should be worshipped along with Lord Vishnu and should not be regarded separately. Materialists seeking the favor of the goddess of fortune must worship Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi together to maintain material opulence. If a materialist follows the policy of Ravana, who wanted to separate Sita from Lord Ramachandra, the process of separation will vanquish him. Those who are very rich and have taken favor of the goddess of fortune in this world must engage their money in the service of the Lord. In this way, they can continue in their opulent position without disturbance. There's a very interesting story in this connection in Bangalore. When we first went there in 1972, we approached a very wealthy silk merchant. He had been recommended to us by other very well-to-do life members, and they say, if you go see this gentleman, he most probably will become your life member and donate. So we went to see him, and he was closing his shop. He had a very, very opulent shop where he was selling silks and very, very nice ornaments and ladies' clothing. So we got there. He was closing at 9 o'clock. We got there around 8:30. So everybody was getting ready to close the shop. So Guru Kripa started to preach to him. He showed him the books and explained him the life member program. And the gentleman then told the Guru Kripa that, well, we are closing the shop and all the money is locked in the safe. So I pointed out to him and said, yes, that is true. The money may be locked in safe, but you have the power to unlock the safe and let the money go for the service of Lakshmi. And we explained to him that Narayana is always served by Lakshmi. So the gentleman very much liked the argument. He opened the safe, became a life member. When we related the incident to Srila Prabhupada later on in Bombay when we met him, Srila Prabhupada said, yes, that is a very good point, but you should also point out to members like this that Krishna does not look at just how much you give, but he looks how much you're keeping for yourself. So you explain to him like that. Let's read the next text. Next, we are reading about Madhu, Sri Madhu Pandit's disappearance. Govinda Bhaktivedanta Krishna Dāsa, Founder-Ācārya Ishan Arlagu Hari Dāsa. Translation: the great devotee Govinda, Vani Krishna Dāsa, Founder-Ācārya, Ishan, and Lagu Haridas also accompanied it. Purport. Lagu Haridas should not be confused with Junior Haridas, who committed suicide at Prayag. Generally, a devotee is called Haridas, and consequently, there are many Haridasas. The chief was Thakur Haridas. There was also a Madhyam Haridas. In Bhakti Ratnakar 6th wave, there is a list of many of the chief devotees who accompanied Srila Rupa Goswami. Goswami Gopal Bhatta Hatidaya Maya, Bhugarbha Sri Lokanath Gunera Alaya, Sri Madhava Sri Paramanda Bhattacharya, Sri Madhu Pandit Yandra Charitra Ascharya, Premi Krishna Das Brahmachari, Yadava Acharya Narayana Kripavan, Sipundari Kaksha Gosai Govinda Ishan, Sri Govindavani Krishna Dasa Tiudar, Sri Uddhava Madhye Gode Yadghati Yanra, Dvija Haridas Krishna Das Kaviraja, Sri Gopala Das Yandra Halokika Kai, Sri Gopal Madhavadi Yatera Vaishnava. The following Vaishnavas were present with Srila Rupa Goswami. They're referring here when Rupa Goswami went to Vrindavan to visit Mathura. The merciful Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Bhugarbha Goswami, Sri Lokanath Das Goswami, a reservoir of good qualities, Sri Madhava, Sri Paramananda Bhattacharya, Sri Madhu Pandit, whose characteristics are all wonderful, Premi Krishna Das Brahmachari, Yadava Acharya, the merciful Narayana, Sri Pundari Kaksha Goswami, Govinda, Ishana, Sri Govinda, the magnanimous Vani Krishna Dasa, Sri Uddhava, who occasionally visited Bengal, Dvija Haridasa, Krishna Das Kaviraja, Sri Gopal Dasa, whose body is completely spiritual, Sri Gopal, Madhava, and many others. It looks like an all-star team here that went with Rupa Goswami. Next. Jahnava Mata, Srimati Jahnava Devi, Avirbhavati. Today we're also celebrating the appearance day of Jahnava Mata. In the family of Kanu Thakur, there is a Radha Krishna deity known as Prana Vallabha. It is said that his family worshipped this deity long before the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When there was a Maharashtrian invasion of Bengal, the family of Kanu Thakur was scattered. And after the invasion, one Hare Krishna Goswami of that family came back to their original home, Bodhakana, and reestablished the Prana Vallabha deity. The descendants of the family still engage in the service of Prana Vallabha. Kanu Thakur was present during the Ketari Utsava when Jahnava Devi and Virabhadra Goswami were also present. One of Kanu Thakur's family members, Madhavacharya, married the daughter of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who was named Ganga Devi. Both Purushom Thakur and Kanu Thakur had many disciples from Brahmana families. Most of the disciplic descendants of Kanu Thakur now reside in the village named Gadabeta, by the river Silavati in the Midnapur district. The foregoing was from the Adi Lila of Chaitanya Matamritamrita, chapter 11, text 40. Srila Prabhupada explained the glories of Srimati Jahnava Devi. Sri Virabhadra Gosai Skanda Mahashaka, Tandra Upashaka Yat Asankhya Taras Leka. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. After Nityananda Prabhu, the greatest branch is Virabhadra Gosai, who also has innumerable branches and sub-branches. It is not possible to describe them all. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes Virabhadra Goswai as the direct son of Srila Nityananda Prabhu and a disciple of Jahnava Devi. His real mother was Vasudha. In the Gaur Ganodesha Dipika, verse 67, he is mentioned as an incarnation of Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. Therefore, Virabhadra Gosai is non-different from Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In a village of the name Jamatpur, in the district of Hooghly, Virabhadra Gosai had a disciple named Yadunatha-Acharya, who had two daughters, a real daughter named Srimati, and a foster daughter named Narayani. Both these daughters married, and they are mentioned in Bhakti Ratnakara, 13 wave. Virabhadra Goswami had three disciples who are celebrated as his sons, Gopijana Vallabha, Ramakrishna, and Ramachandra. The youngest, Ramachandra, belonged to the Sandilya dynasty and had the surname Vatavyala. He established his family as Kadadaha, and its members are known as the Goswamis of Kadadaha. The eldest disciple, Gopijana Vallabha, was a resident of a village known as Lata, near the Manakara railway station in the district of Burdwan. The second, Ramakrishna, lived near Maladaha, in a village named Gayeshpura. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur notes that since these three disciples belonged to different gotras or dynasties, and also had different surnames and live in different places, it is not possible to accept them as real sons of Virabhadra Gosai. Ramachandra had 4 sons, of whom the eldest was Radha Madhava, whose third son was named Yadavendra. Yadavendra's son was Nanda Kishora. His son was Nidhi Krishna. His son was Chaitanya Chanda. His son was Krishna Mohana. His son was Jagan Mohana. His son was Vrajanatha. And his son was Shyamalata Goswami. This is the genealogical table given by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur for the descendants of Virabhadra Gosai. This was from Adi Lila, chapter 11, text number 8. Srila Prabhupada, citing Kavi Karnapur, Gorgana Dishipa, regarding the divine position of Jahnava Devi, Nityanandera Gana Yata Sababraja Saka, Shringa Vetra Gopa Vesha Shirishiki Paka. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. All the associates of Lord Nityananda were formerly cowherd boys in Vrajabhumi. Their symbolic representations were the horns and sticks they carried, their cowherd dress, and the peacock plumes on their head. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jahnava Mata is also within the list of Lord Nityananda's followers. She is described in the Gora Ganodesha Dipika, verse 66, as Ananga Manjari of Vrindavana. All the devotees who are followers of Jahnava Mata are counted within the list of Sri Nityananda Prabhu's devotees. Surya Das Sarakela Tandra Bai Krishna Das Nityanande Drida Vishwas Premera Nivas. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Surya Das Sarakela and his younger brother Krishna Dasa Sarakela both possessed firm faith in Nityananda Prabhu. They were a reservoir of love of Godhead. Purport. In the Bhakti Ratnakar 12th wave, it is stated that a few miles from Navadvipa is a place called Shaligram. That was the residence of Surya Das Sarakela. He was employed as a secretary in the Muslim government of that time, and thus he amassed a good fortune. Surya Das had 4 brothers, all of whom were pure Vaishnavas. Vasudha and Jahnava were 2 daughters of Surya Das Sarakela. From the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 11:25. Any other? Okay. Parameshwara Das Nityanande Kasharan Krishna Bhakti Paitandre Jekare Smaran. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Parameshwara Dasa, said to be the 5th Gopala of Krishna Lila, completely surrendered to the lotus feet of Nityananda Anyone who remembers his name, Parameshvara Dasa, will get love of Krishna very easily. Jai Parameshvara Dasa. Purport by His Divine Grace. The Chaitanya Bhagavata states, but Parameshvara Dasa, known as sometimes as Parameshvari Dasa, who was the life and soul of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. The body of Parameshvara Dasa was the place of Nityananda's pastimes. Parameshvara Dasa, who lived for some time at Kadadaha village, was always filled with the ecstasy of a coward boy. Formerly, he was Arjuna, a friend of Krishna and Balarama. He was the fifth amongst the 12 Gopalas. He accompanied Srimati Jahnava Devi when she performed the festival at Keturi. It is stated in the Bhakti Ratnakara that by the order of Srimati Jahnava Mata, he installed Radha Gopinatha in the temple of Attapura in the district of Hooghali. The Attapura station is on the narrow gauge railway line between Howrah and Amata. Another temple in Attapura, established by the Mitra family, is known as the Radha Govinda Temple. In front of the temple is a very attractive place among two Bakula trees, and a Kadamba tree is the tomb of Parameshwari Thakur. And above it is an altar with a Tulsi bush. It is said that only one flower a year comes out of the Kadamba tree. It is offered to the deity. Parameshwari Thakur belonged, it is said, to a Vaidya family. A descendant of his brothers is at present a worshipper in the temple. Some of their family members still reside in the district of Hooghali, near the post office at Chanditala. The descendants of Parameshwari Thakur took many disciples from Brahmana families, but as these descendants gradually took to the profession of physicians, persons from Brahmana families ceased becoming their disciples. The family titles of Parameshwari descendants are Adhikari and Gupta. Unfortunately, his family members do not worship the deity directly. They have engaged paid brahmanas to worship the deity. In the temple, Baladev and Sri Radha Gopinatha are together on the throne. It is supposed that the deity of Baladeva was installed later because according to Transcendental Mellow, Baladev, Krishna, and Radha cannot stay on the same throne. On the full moon of Vaishakha, April-May, the Disappearance festival of Parameshwari Thakur is observed in this temple. A lot of information. This was from the Adi Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 11, text 29. Ajanmanani magna nityanandera charane, nirantar balyalila kare Krishna sane. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. From birth, Purushottama Dasa was merged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, and he always engaged in childish play with Krishna. Sadashira Kaviraj and Nagara Purushottama, who were father and son, are described in the Chaitanya Bhagavata as Maha Bhagyavan, greatly fortunate. They belong to the Vaidya caste of physicians. The Gaura Ganodesha Deepika, verse 156, states that Chandravali, a most beloved gopi of Krishna's, later took birth as Sadashiva Kaviraja. In verses 194 and 200, it is said that Kamsari Sena, the father of Sadashiva Kaviraja, was formerly the gopi named Ratnavali in Krishna's pastimes. All the family members of Sadashiva Kaviraja were great devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purushottama Das Thakur sometimes lived at Sukasagara near the Chakadaha and Simurali railway stations. All the deities installed by Purushottama Thakur were formerly in Beledanga Grama, but when the temple was destroyed, the deities were brought to Sukasagara. When that temple merged into the bed of the Ganges, the deities were brought with Jahnava Mata's deity to Sahibagdanga Bedigrama. Since that place also has been destroyed, All the deities are now situated in the village named Chandude Grama, which is situated 1 mile up from Palapada, as referred to above. This was from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 11, text 39. There's very interesting description by Srila Prabhupada about Jahnava Mata, that she organized the Keturi festival. The Keturi festival was a big festival where Narottam Das Thakur and so many of the personal associates of Lord Nityananda, descendants of Advaita Acharya, descendants of Lord Nityananda, some of the Gopals, they all came there at Keturi, which was somewhere near now in Bangladesh. And they had a big festival, installed deities for several days. And Jahnava Mata was trying to bring all of the different factions or different branches of Gaudiya Vaishnavism together to unite them, all under the service of Lord Nityananda. This took place around 1570 or 15. It was after the departure of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a few decades later. Very, very important festival. This is elaborately described in the Bhakti Ratnakar. Let's go on reading here. Tanra Putra Mahashai Trikanu Thakur Yanra Dehera He Krishna Premamrita Pur. Translation. Sri Kanu Thakur, a very respectable gentleman, was the son of Purushottama Das Thakur. He was such a great devotee that Lord Krishna always lived in his body. Purport. To go to the headquarters of Kanu Thakur, one has to proceed by boat from the Jikara Gacha Gata station to the river known as Kapotaksha. Otherwise, if one goes about 2 or 2.5 miles from the Jira Gacha Gata station, he can see Bodhakana, the headquarters of Kanu Thakur. The son of Sadashiva was Purushottama Thakur, and his son was Kanu Thakur. The descendants of Kanu Thakur know him as Nagara Purushottama. He was the coward-born named Dhamma during Krishna Lila. It is said that just after the birth of Kanu Thakur, his mother, Jahnava, died. When he was about 12 days old, Sri Nityananda Prabhu took him to his home at Kadadaha. It is ascertained that Kanu Thakur was born sometimes in the Bengali year 1535. It is said that he took birth on the Ratha Yatra day because he was a great devotee of Lord Krishna from the very beginning of his life. Sri Nityananda Prabhu gave him the name Shishu Krishna Dasa. When he was 5 years old, he went to Vrindavan with Jahnava Mata. And upon seeing the ecstatic symptoms of Kanu Thakur, the Goswamis gave him the name Kanai Thakur. In the family of Kanu Thakur, there is a Radha Krishna deity known as Pranavallabha. It is said that his family worshipped this deity long before the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When there was a Maharashtrian invasion of Bengal, the family of Kanu Thakur was scattered. And after the invasion, one Hare Krishna Goswami of that family came back to their original home, Bodhakana, and reestablished the Pranavallabha deity. The descendants of the family still engage in the service of Pranavallabha. Kanu Thakur was present during the Ketari Utsava. Okay. Kanu Thakur was present during the Ketari Utsava when Jahnava-devi and Virabhadra Goswami were also present. One of Kanu Thakur's family members, Madhu-acharya, married the daughter of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who was named Ganga Devi. Both Purushottama Thakur and Kanu Thakur had many disciples from Brahmana families. Most of the disciplic descendants of Kanu Thakur now reside in the village named Gadabeta by the river Shilavati in the Midnapur district. This was from Adi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 11, text 40. Today we're also celebrating the appearance day of Sri Radharaman deity. And what I was going to do is read something from the website of the radharaman.org, which explains how Gopal Bhatta Goswami obtained the deity, the beloved deity, Radharamana. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance, Gopal Bhatta Goswami felt intense separation from the Lord. To relieve his devotee, the Lord instructed Gopal Bhatta in a dream, "If you want my darshan, then make a trip to Nepal." In Nepal, Gopal Bhatta bathed in the famous Kali Gandaki River. Upon dipping his water pot in the river, he was surprised to see several Shaligram Shilas enter his pot. He dropped the Shilas back into the rivers, but the Shilas re-entered his pot when he refilled it. After emptying and refilling his water pot for the third time, Gopal Bhatta Goswami found 12 Shaligram Shilas sitting there. Thinking this must be the Lord's mercy, he kept all the Shilas and returned to Vrindavana. Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami used to worship 12 Shaligram Shilas. Wherever he would go, he would bring them with him in a piece of cloth tied at the corner. One day, a wealthy man, Seth, came to Vrindavan and offered Gopal Bhatta a variety of clothing and ornaments for his Shaligram. Being very impressed with the Goswami, he wanted his darshan and to render some service, which he presented in the form of some valuable cloths and ornaments. However, Gopal Bhatta could not use these for his round-shaped Shaligram. So he advised the donor to give the deity decorations to someone else. But the Seth insisted. Gopal Bhatta kept the cloths and ornament with his Shilas. While Gopal Bhatta Goswami was absorbed in remembering how the half-man, half-lion form of the Supreme Lord had manifested from the pillar in Hiranyakashipu's palace, he prayed in transcendental lamentation to the Lord, "O my Lord, you are very merciful and always fulfill the desires of your devotees. I wish to serve you in your form, having arms and legs and blissful smiling face with lotus eyes. If I had a deity, then I would be able to decorate him so nicely with these clothes and ornaments." In the evening, after offering some Bhog and Arti to the Shaligram Shilas, Gopal Bhatta put them to rest, covering them with a wicker basket. Later in the night, Gopal Bhatta took a little rest and then in the early morning went to take bath in the Yamuna River. Returning from his bath, he uncovered the Shaligrams in order to render the puja for them and saw amongst them a deity of Krishna playing the flute. There were now 11 Shilas, and this deity, the Damodar Shila, had manifested as the beautiful threefold bending form of Sri Banga Nanda Krishna. Floating in the ocean of ecstasy, he fell to the ground in order to offer his dandavats, and then they recited various prayers and hymns. This wonderful event of the appearance of Radharamana happened on the day after Sri Nasim Chaturdasi, and it's celebrated on that day accordingly. That day, they offer 500 liters of milk for the Lord's pleasure, and many other sweets and different things. The Radharaman temple has the highest standard of deity worship in all of Vraja. When Rup and Sanatana Goswamis, as well as many other devotees, received news of this miraculous event, they came running to see the Lord. Gazing on the Lord's transcendental form, which bewildered all the living entities of the many various planets, they all bathed him with their tears. This deity, whom the Goswami named Sri Radha Ramana Deva, made his appearance on a full moon day of Vaisakha in the year 1542. Except for Sita-devi, Sri Radharamanji is the only one of the original deities of Vrindavana who never left to go to Jaipur. Sri Radharamanji is still being worshipped in Vrindavana near Nidhuban Kunj in the compound of the temple. A deity of Radharani is not worshipped in this temple because the deity of Radharamana is self-manifested and there was no deity of Radharani self-manifested. The name of Radharani is worshipped in the temple because according to scriptures, the name and the person are considered non-different. There is a golden plate next to Krishna, which has the name of Radharani engraved into it. Hold on. Oops. There is a golden plate next to Krishna, which has the name of Radharani engraved into it. In this way, the pujaris worship Sri Radha and Ramanji together. Sri Radha Ramandeva, unlike other deities, has very intricate features, including fingernails and even teeth. On the backside of his body, parts of the original Shaligram Shila, from which he manifested himself, can be seen. This was taken from the website radharaman.org from Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada visited the Radharaman temple a number of times and was very impressed. He advised his disciples to learn the high standard of deity worship at the Radharaman temple. So we will proceed with our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, but before we do that, I wanted to ask our good friend, yes, Prabhu, yes, please go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but I had two questions, and there's a question in the
Okay.
text also. First question is that I noticed Srila Prabhupada gives detailed histories of the genealogical tables in his writings.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could confirm that I had read that it is because to hear even just to hear the names of these personalities is considered auspicious and beneficial spiritually for those who hear. If you could confirm that, or if there's also another reason or a different reason. That's the first question.
I believe there's several reasons. What you say is perfectly true. Prabhupada many times mentioned that the names of all the associates of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are very sacred because these personalities are not conditioned souls who became devotees. They were Nitya Siddhas. I'm referring to the direct associates of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's a situation where by hearing these auspicious transcendental names, it's very purifying. Another reason is Srila Prabhupada, as the Acharya of the Krishna Consciousness movement, is giving detailed historical knowledge of the descendants of Lord Nityananda, their various temples, their various locations. So people in the future would be able to understand that this is not just a sentimental, emotional religion, but it's based upon history, historical events, and historical facts. Just like we were describing the festival at Keturi, which was a major event in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism organized by Jahnava Mata and Virabhadra Goswami. So it's a very, very important event in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism and her attempt to basically unite all the different branches of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Narottam Das Thakur was there. So many great acharyas, followers of Lord Chaitanya was there. Virabhadra Goswami was there. And as Prabhupada mentioned, many of these devotees that we read about were also there. So these names are very auspicious.
Thank you very much for that. And I believe you've answered the text that was going on in the chat about the significance of the history. So my second question, and I apologize to Ishan Prabhu for taking more time before he speaks, but the second question was, generally, I like to stay away from controversies, but right now there's a big controversy going on in the ISKCON world about the women wanting to become gurus also. We talked about Mother Jahnava Mata, and they bring that incident or this personality up as a justification. So if you could please comment on that also.
I believe this came from a conversation with Professor Joseph O'Connell from Toronto University, who was a very learned scholar of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And when Prabhupada came to Toronto, he went to see Srila Prabhupada, and he asked Srila Prabhupada the question, can women be gurus? And Prabhupada said yes, and he gave the example of Jahnava Mata. And also in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, there is a great acharya named Gangamata Goswaminis. But one thing it's important to understand these personalities. These are Nitya Siddha, Paramamsas. If somebody is really on that level, I could see. But in Krishna consciousness, we have no such thing as feminism or women liberation. This is not the philosophy, the Vedic philosophy that Prabhupada gave. Now, by philosophy, we can see there are so many statements. Prabhupada said that all the women in the movement, because they were engaged in preaching, they were as good as their male devotee counterparts. And Prabhupada encouraged them to lead kirtan, give Bhagavatam classes like Jadurani and others, and preach, distribute books and everything. That is basically a shiksha function. But we have no record of Prabhupada ever making any statement of devotees being, women devotees being Diksha gurus. As a matter of fact, when this issue came up, and various devotees asked various acharyas, especially of the South Indian oldest Vaishnava sampradayas, namely the Ramanujas and Madhvas, they basically scoffed at this and says, do not do this. This is not proper. This is not according to Vedic principles. I find it somewhat ironic that many of these experts in our movement will claim that the Ritvik system established and instituted by Srila Prabhupada, very nicely coined by Krishna Kant in England as the final order of Srila Prabhupada for initiation, they reject that as being non-Vedic, but yet they will accept also other non-Vedic points when it's convenient. Now, the point being here, I want to say, this is not discrimination against women, but we have to be sensitive to the transcendental culture from which we belong. And this idea that because Jahnava Mata or Ganga Mata Goswamini, who are elevated paramamsas, this is not to be imitated. Now, some people will criticize, say that we're against women. No, that is not any statement against women, because we find no record of Prabhupada ever stating that women should be Diksha gurus in his movement. First of all, Prabhupada did not nominate, appoint, or select any men as Diksha gurus. That's another illusion. It was very nicely described by Tamal Krishna Goswami in Topanga Canyon on the 3rd of December, 1980, when he said, you cannot show me anywhere in writing where Prabhupada, Siddhas 11 are appointed as Diksha gurus. I'm paraphrasing. He said, this is a myth. ISKCON has got to come out of this mythology that the original 11 were appointed as Diksha gurus. They were not. It's a falsehood and a hoax. All Prabhupada did is nominate individuals not to a position of Diksha gurus, but simply to continue as Ritvik representative, initiated people on his behalf as his disciples. They don't like this. Okay. Show us where, when, and how you were exactly appointed as a Diksha guru. As a matter of fact, from a technical Sanskrit perspective, from the 17th of May, 1977, you were there in Vrindavan, Ram Raghava, when Prabhupada came from Rishikesh to Vrindavan, we carried him to his room. Till the 14th of November, 1977, try to find anywhere where Prabhupada used the word Diksha guru or initiating Acharya, initiating spiritual master. It is not there. When he was asked the question, how would initiation continue, particularly at that time when you're no longer with us, his immediate reply says, I shall nominate some of you as Ritvik Acharyas. I'm paraphrasing here. They don't like this. They have their own interpretation. Very well. Show us where and where you were appointed as Diksha gurus and we'll accept it. But nobody in the last 48 years has been able to show that. So we at Hare Krishna Society and Prabhupada, whatever group they are, we follow Prabhupada's last directive with regards to initiation. Very simple, not complicated. The major difference is that people who accept initiation under the Ritvik system, they accept Prabhupada as their Acharya, they worship him exclusively, offer obeisances exclusively, offer Guru Puja exclusively, offer Vyasa Puja once a year exclusively, and the representative is not being viewed with a picture on the altar and everything like that. Then, if there is any problem with the representative, the fate of the follower will not be disturbed. This is complete, total surrender to the Acharya. A person become a student, a follower, and follow the discipline given by the Acharya, thus becoming the disciple. We will speak more detail about that when we have the initiation ceremony in Edison, New Jersey on Saturday, May 2nd, and we hope that your good self, Ram Ravak and Rupa Goswami, can be so kind to help us with the technical presentation. It's going to be, technically, it's going to be, we start at 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern Daytime on that day, and it'll be very interesting. Very interesting. And Ishan Prabhu is giving me some very good pointers on the meaning of really accepting initiation from Srila Prabhupada. And if he is there, I would kindly oblige him, kindly speak and enlighten us with your realization, Ishan Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. On the first point, why we are hearing these pastimes of these great historical personalities in our movement, although it was some 400 or 500 years ago, we read the pastimes of Krishna himself. There's no difference. These associates of Lord Chaitanya, these family members, etc., this is all Krishna Lila. It's not different from reading Krishna book. And that's why we read. And also, Srila Prabhupada, everything we're reading has been given to us by Srila Prabhupada. That's Srila Prabhupada. So he decided that this is good for us to read and to hear. And we do not need any better reason for that. It is not that is some culture in the past or something like that. These are spiritual personalities who have descended from the spiritual world to give us their association in this written form. As far as Hare Krishna, the whole idea, Srila Prabhupada explains in the Nectar of Instruction that yes, a neophyte or a Madhyamadikari can give initiation. Yes, but because of the science of Krishna consciousness, wherein how does one actually make progress? In our sampradaya, the students or disciples of the spiritual master, they can develop a kind of Krishna consciousness or God consciousness that exists nowhere else. And what is that? It is that there's an intimate relationship between the devotee or disciple and the spiritual master. This is explained. I have on my computer maybe 10 or 15 different quotes making the same point. When they take initiation from such a spiritual master who is coming from Krishna Loka to give us a teaching, the way in which this disciple learns is that he has an intimate, transcendental relationship with the spiritual master, as Srila Prabhupada's beautiful comment, that pure devotion, Srimad Bhagavatam 1:5-25, pure devotion is so much infectious. It's infectious in a good sense, like an infectious disease, but in a good sense. He says infection in that purport. Infection of the qualities of the pure devotee means to imbibe the taste of devotion in his association. This means that we have a transcendental relationship with our spiritual master so that we can sense or feel what he's feeling towards Krishna. And this is how we develop these feelings of love of God. We receive them and then we cultivate them by saturating our own seva, our own sadhana. With these same feelings. This means engaging in Krishna consciousness under the guidance of a pure devotee. So, because this is the essential aspect, That therefore in Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada explains that yes, we can have a neophyte spiritual master, we can have Madhyamadakari, but we cannot advance more than they're advanced, because all we can learn from them is what they have to share. Therefore, we sing every day in our Guru Puja, Prema Bhakti Yaha Hoite, Avidya Vinashayate. That is from him we imbibe the taste of his devotion, and if we can do that, then our ignorance is destroyed. And is it a very simple thing? No, it means we have to ardently desire to have that transcendental relationship and feel his presence in our heart. Therefore, the last line in our Guru Puja prayer is, Ha Prabhu Kuradoya Deho More. O Master, be merciful unto me. Give me the shade. So similarly in our songbook, we have by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, one prayer, O Master, let me be with you. In another prayer says, I offer you all respect, for thus I may have the ability to understand your devotional feeling. Then, by chanting the holy name in great ecstasy, all of my offenses will cease. This is the science of how we become devotees in our sampradaya. And that's why, so who can be spiritual master? It means none of these gurus who are neophyte at best, what they can, it's not a question of following. Yes, they can say, you get up early, you take your bath, you attend Bhagavatam class, you attend Tulsi Puja, you do 16 rounds. That is called objective instruction. But Srila Prabhupada talks of something in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's called Adi Leela 1, First chapter, verse 47, you read it. Srila Prabhupada says there's two kinds of instruction in this Krishna consciousness. One is objective instruction, and the other is subjective instruction. Subjective means feeling, that we feel his presence, we feel his devotion. Then we cultivate our Krishna consciousness following in his footsteps. This is the meaning of Prabhupada Anuga, following. So, as Srila Prabhupada said, one should not think of the spiritual master in terms of his external appearance, but one should try to understand his devotional feeling. This is right there in our Nectar of Instruction. Okay, the list of evidences in this, we can go on, we can write a book, but we have to begin to understand, as disciples of Srila Prabhupada, we have to begin to understand the science of Krishna consciousness and how we make progress under his guidance. Hare Krishna.
Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Much appreciated. I just want to read a comment from Bhakti and Veronica Carmona from Italy. She said, they seem like stories from the past, but in reality, if you go deep, there's a lot of philosophy. There, they are very much in the present. Hare Krishna and all the glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. This is a very pertinent comment. When we are reading about these great acharyas and associate of Lord Nityananda, what I did is, while you were speaking, Prabhu, I quoted a few texts from the purport of Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Lila, chapter 11, text 89, where Srila Prabhupada explains, one who has transcended the material modes of nature is said to be on the Brahman platform. That is also the platform of Nitya Siddha. The Nitya Siddha not only stays on the Brahman platform, but also works on that platform. Simply by accepting the associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Nitya Siddha, one can very easily go back home, back to Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada further explains, Gorangira Sangi Gane, Nitya Siddha Karimane, Seyai Brajendra Sutta Pas. One who is intelligent understands that all the personal associates and devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are ever liberated. This means that because they are always engaged in a devotional service to the Lord, they do not belong to this material world. One who is engaged in the Lord's devotional service 24 hours daily and never forgets the Lord is called Nitya Siddha. Srila Rupa Goswami conferred this statement. Then, same purport, a devotee is always thinking how better to serve Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how to broadcast his name, fame, and qualities throughout the world. One who is Nitya Siddha has no other business other than broadcasting the glories of the Lord all over the world according to his ability. Such people are outwardly associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur says, Nitya Siddha Karimane. One should not think that because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally present 500 years ago, only his associates were liberated. Rather, Srila Narottam Das Thakur says that anyone is a Nitya Siddha if he acts on behalf of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by spreading the glories of the holy name of the Lord. We should respect those devotees preaching the glories of the Lord as Nitya Siddha and should not consider them conditioned. And then this way Prabhupada explains, at the end Prabhupada says, simply by accepting the associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Nitya Siddha, one can very easily go back home, back to Godhead. And having said all that, we can proceed with our reading of a few Bhagavatam verses.
Sorry, I apologize. One more thing. There are two questions on the chat. One of them by Jayaraj I'll save for later. But since we mentioned the topic of imitation, there's one relevant question by Sakshi, who says, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Jai Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. I have a question about that often comes to my mind, and I seek your guidance on it. Many times I feel confused about how to distinguish between speculation and genuine philosophical contemplation while studying Srila Prabhupada's books. How can one understand whether one is thoughtfully reflecting within the boundaries of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, or merely speculating? Similarly, I wanted to ask how one can properly understand the difference between sincerely following Srila Prabhupada and merely imitating him. I would be grateful for the guidance.
Well, this is a vast topic that you're raising here, but let's try to simplify it. Basically, how to understand, basically, is to try to stick to the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. Now, during Prabhupada's manifest presence, we did not have the internet, but there were computers, but not as advanced technologically as today, where you can search on Google or different websites and get tremendous amount of information very quickly on any given topic. And this is a very good tool to study the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, to understand in depth various issues. But Prabhupada taught us that we should study in a very systematic way. That's why Prabhupada had the Bhagavatam class that every day devotees would assemble, read the Sanskrit, read the word for word, read the translation, read the purport, and then the next day goes on to one or two more verses. And in this way, gradually, Prabhupada explains in one of his books, by doing this, studying out the first 9 cantos, one can become liberated. By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to understand, in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, in the first canto, there's a description that Krishna is directly present in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not that this is just a book about Krishna. This is Krishna himself, the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because the great sages of Nimesharanya asked Sutta Goswami, now that Krishna has departed from his abode, Kalo Dastandidamesha, where is religion reside? Now that Krishna has gone back to Goloka Vrindavan, how to understand the teachings of Krishna? And he replied in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, Puranarko Aduno Ditaha. Puranarko, that the bright light of the Srimad Bhagavatam is how to understand the teachings. And this is what Prabhupada, his purports and his teachings are very, very important. For example, there was a story from Australia, one devotee related to Srila Prabhupada, how one lawyer, over there they call them solicitors or barristers, kept Srila Prabhupada books on his shelf, and he did not have time to read them, but he kept them with great respect. And Prabhupada says, yes, that is very nice. And Prabhupada said, because these books are representatives of God. These books and these purports, no, we're assuming here the original books, not the adulterated, changed books that have been presented. Not these books, original books, first edition books. That these books are direct representative of God. So this is very important. This is how we can properly understand the difference between sincerity and imitation. Go deep into the reading and study of Srila Prabhupada's books. This is the meaning of associating with Prabhupada, following the discipline of Prabhupada, following the teachings of Prabhupada. This is not a question of physicality. It's a question of submissive hearing. Next question.
That was it. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay.
And with that, I'll present the Jai Radha Madhava prayers.
Thank you kindly.
Jai Radha Madhava Punya Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Punya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda-nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda-nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari
Jayam Vishnupada Paramamsa Paribrajagacharya Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupada Paramamsa Paribrajagacharya Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sri Kao Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinata Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Tulasi-devi Ki Jai, Bhakti-devi Ki Jai, Yamuna-mayi Ki Jai, Ganga-mayi Ki Jai, Sri Harinama Samkirtana Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. From Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskritya, Narayanam namaskritya, Naram cheva narottamam, Naram cheva narottamam, Devim saraswatim vyasam, Devim saraswatim vyasam, Tato jayam mudirayet, Tato jayam mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead, Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Let us proceed with reading the specific verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 7, text number 57. Vapanam dravinadanam stanat niryapanam tata eshahi brahma bandhunam badonanya sidehikaha vapanam. Clearing the hairs from the head. Dravinam, wealth. Adanam, being taken or forfeited of. Stanat, from the residence. Niryapanam, driving away. Tata, also. Esha, all these. He, certainly. Brahma bandhunam, of the relatives of the Brahmin. Bado, killing. Na, not. Anya, any other method. Asti, there is. Dehikaha, in the matter of the body. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Clearing of the hairs from the head, forfeiting of the wealth, and driving away from the residence are the prescribed punishments for the relative of a Brahmin, and there's no order for killing him by the body. Text number 58. Putrashoka tura sarve Pandavaha saha Krishnaya svanam vritanam yat krityam chakrur nirharanadikam. Putra, son. Shoka, bereavement. Aturaha, overwhelm with. Sarve, all of them. Pandavaha, the sons of Pandu, Saha, along with Krishnaya, with Draupadi, Svanam, of the kingsmen, Mritanam, of the dead, Yat, what? Krityam, ought to be done. Chakrur, did perform. Nirharanadikam, undertakeable. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Thereafter, the sons of the Pandu, along with Draupadi, overwhelmed by bereavement, did perform all that were undertakeable in the matter of the dead bodies of their relatives. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 7th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the matter of the son of Drona punished. 8th chapter, prayers by Queen Kunti and Parikshit saved, text number 1. Sutta uvacha atate samparitanam svanamudakamichatam datum sakrishna gangayam puraskritya yayustriyaha. Sutta uvacha, Sutta said, Atha, thus, te, the Pandavas, samparitanam, of the dead, svanam, of the relative, udakam, water, ichatam, willing to have, datum, to deliver, sakrishna, along with Lord Krishna, gangayam, on the Ganges, puraskritya, putting on the front, yayuhu, went, striyaha, the women. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, thereafter, the Pandavas, desiring to deliver water to the dead relatives who had desired for it, went to the Ganges along with Lord Krishna, putting the ladies in the front. Purport. Still up to date, it is a custom in the Hindu society to go to the Ganges or to any other sacred river for taking bath when death occurs in the family. Each of the family member pours on a potful of Ganges water to the departed soul, and they go to the place in a procession, keeping the ladies in the front. The Pandavas also followed the rules more than 5,000 years before. Lord Krishna, being a cousin brother of the Pandavas, is also amongst the family members. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Meritam Yena Tasme Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasme Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandana Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadate Visheshatah Adadana Strinam Danteridam Yachi Punaha Punaha Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janmani Amsho Bhagavatosmyaham Sadod Sadadasu Asmi Saravata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Presta Sadkaromisvam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this particular chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 7, concludes with Arjuna cutting the hair on the top of the body of Ashwatthama, cutting the jewels on his head, and the final conclusion that this is the proper punishment for one who has misbehaved and killed the sleeping sons of Draupadi. Very self-explanatory. Then there's also the question of what happened when after the war of Kurukshetra, all the Pandavas went to the river Ganges along with the ladies and started the rites, the funeral rites for the departed relatives. Now, this is very important because sometimes the question is, why is so much emphasis being put on certain rituals which may seem irrelevant to our current lives? Well, the Srimad Bhagavatam deals not just with spiritual principles or transcendental philosophy, but also with practical philosophy, what to do after a relative departs. Because this question is often brought up when devotees have a relative that dies. What do you do? Now, somebody may not be able to go to the Ganges. What many devotees have done is take the ashes from different relatives and pour them in the Ganges. Well, we also have to consider that Prabhupada, especially for those of us who live in the west coast of the United States, Prabhupada, for example, in October of 1968, went to a lake in Seattle, was taking walk, Green Lake. So that place is like a tirtha. Somebody said, well, why is it a tirtha? Tirthi kurbanti tirtani stani stita statit. That in the Bhagavatam described that whatever places are visited by a great personality, tirthi kurbanti tirtani stani stitaha, that place becomes a place of pilgrimage. Similarly, everybody knows Prabhupada used to take walks in Los Angeles on Venice Beach. In San Francisco in 1967, 68, the Gargamuni had arranged to rent a nice cottage for Prabhupada to recover. He went and we used to take to walks on Stinton Beach in San Francisco. So these places are no longer just an ordinary place for surfers or people just to bathe. They're now, for those who know the science of Bhagavatam, they're sacred places, so ashes can be taken there. So this is very important. Here's the actual verse. Bhavadvida bhagavatas tirta bhutaha swayam vibho tirti kurvanti tirtani svantastena garabrita. Prabhupada translates, my Lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified. Because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart, you turn all places into places of pilgrimage. Purport. Prabhupada explains, the personality of Godhead is omnipresent by his diverse potencies everywhere, just as the power of electricity is distributed everywhere within space. Similarly, the Lord's omnipresence is perceived and manifested by his unalloyed devotees like Vidura, just as electricity is manifested in an electric bulb. A pure devotee like Vidura always feels the presence of the Lord everywhere. He sees everything in the potency of the Lord and the Lord in everything. The holy places all over the earth are meant for purifying the polluted consciousness of the human being by an atmosphere surcharged with the presence of the Lord's unalloyed devotees. If anyone visits a holy place, he must search out the pure devotees residing in such holy places, take lessons from them, try to apply such instructions in practical life, and thus gradually prepare oneself for the ultimate salvation, going back to Godhead. To go to some holy place of pilgrimage, going back to Godhead, to go to some holy place of pilgrimage does not mean only to take a bath in the Ganges or Yamuna, or to visit the temples situated in those places. One should also find the representatives of Vidura who have no desire in life save and except to serve the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead is always with such pure devotees because of their unalloyed service, which is without any tinge of fruitive action or utopian speculation. They are in the actual service of the Lord, specifically by the process of hearing and chanting. The pure devotees hear from the authorities and chant, sing, and write of the glories of the Lord. Mahamuni Vyasadeva heard from Narada, and then he chanted in writing. Shukadev Goswami studied from his father, and he described it to Parikshit. That is the way of Srimad Bhagavatam. So by their action, the pure devotees of the Lord can render any place into a place of pilgrimage, and the holy places are worth the name only on their account. Such pure devotees are able to rectify the polluted atmosphere of any place, and what to speak of a holy place rendered unholy by the questionable actions of interested persons who try to adopt a professional life at the cost of the reputation of a holy place. Now, this is a very important purport, because Prabhupada is explaining the transcendental power of a pure devotee. I wanted to read one or two excerpts from a conversation with Srila Prabhupada. Let me send this to you, Ram Raghavan, maybe you can display it. This is conversation one conversation is Bhubaneswar, January 28, 1977. Let me send that. It's very relevant to what we're discussing today. Let me just read here. Pitru Putra. So then, after I had some other thing, for example, when I... let me see here. I think I lost the feed here. Let me see here. Sent. Pitru Putra. They were telling me that you are going to see the representative of God. And when I came to that vision, I saw the person. At that time, I did not know who it was, but I had some doubts in my mind, and I was thinking, oh, that's probably another kind of propaganda. This was all in the dream. But when I came to that person sitting on the elevated seat in that forest, surrounded by many, many devotees, that person looked at me and proved to me that he was the representative of God. But after that, I forgot, maybe 1 year or something like this, 1 or 2 years after Prabhupada. So there is no doubt about it that I am the representative of God. Pitru Putra, yes, but when I was, Prabhupada, either you dream or not dream, I claim. Pitru Putra, yes, but this thing was just confirming. When I saw you the first time in Amsterdam, you were the same person that I saw in my dream 1 or 2 years previously. Prabhupada, that you have read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Guru Tattva. So there it is clearly said that Guru is the manifestation of God. So it is confirmed in the Shastra, and all the Acharyas accept it. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, Satsvarup. But is it possible to also learn spiritual truths from this, from representative on the subtle plane? Prabhupada, there is no question of subtle plane. You are on the gross plane. You first of all study gross things, and subtle we shall see later on. Pitru Putra, of course, that was never a doubt. That's just the way I came to Krishna consciousness and when I saw you, Prabhupada. So the Guru is the representative of God. That's all right. Then what is your misunderstanding? So basically, Prabhupada is confirming that he's the actual representative of God. Then there's a conversation in Australia, in Perth, Australia, on May 9th, 1975. This is very interesting, along with the line of what we've been discussing about Prabhupada's original non-adulterated books, Amoga. One man who joined us about Ratri at the time last year was a solicitor. That's a name for a lawyer in Australia. He used to buy our books, but he never read them. But he would keep them on his bookshelf, and he used to always think, these are such beautiful books. He used to think like that. Prabhupada, this is appreciation. Amoga, he never got time to read it. Prabhupada, it doesn't matter. If he keeps the books with appreciation, that makes his life insured. He immediately becomes in touch with God, who keeps the book with reverence and love. Immediately he becomes in touch with God, because these books are representative of God. Amoga, when we go to a school, I first ask, how many students have seen us chanting in the streets? Immediately they all raise their hands. Prabhupada, it is a very nice service you are doing. Krishna will be satisfied. Haritoshana. As soon as Krishna is satisfied, Your preaching is perfect. Back to you in the studio, Ram Raghava. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I want to address one thing before I leave here. Somebody made a comment, somebody replied, called iPad, whoever that is. There was a comment from Hare Krishna Society. Yes, history of great personalities give us pertinent instruction examples, even in modern time. So Mr. iPad, whoever he is. So that also means such things can be ineffective for persons who are not giving that practical realization by their example. Who the hell is he talking about? Vijay Pandit replied, for example, when you go to school and study various subjects, these subjects come from the teachings of people in history who expended knowledge in the fields of mathematics, science, physics, and so on. In the same way, there are people who wish to learn spirituality from great personalities belonging to transcendental and spiritual history, like Srila Prabhupada. iPad replied, it basically means that you have to understand these things and realize them for yourself. The speaker may simply be repeating words like a parrot without believing what they are saying, and it's up to each individual to understand and judge. That's essentially what forms discussion like this encourage. Well, I appreciate the comments from this individual. It'd be nice if you could maybe be a little bit more specific. Who is he talking about? In my case, I'm just repeating like a parrot. That's quite obvious. But in general, when we're reading from Srila Prabhupada, we're directly associating with a pure devotee and his transcendental teachings. That's the first point that should be clearly understood. Not to cast aspersions and false innuendos on various participants. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to invite Ishan Prabhu if he has any further comments before we get ready to end the class.
Well, one thing that comes to mind is, of course, Srila Prabhupada. He wanted us to try to understand. There are statements in our books like, you just apply your logic propensity in this way and you'll get purified. But Srila Prabhupada also says at different times, you understand or you don't understand. You hear you're going to be purified because this is the transcendental sound vibration. And other times he says you don't understand first time, you read again. And if you don't understand again, you read again. Just keep exposing yourself and keeping your mind and heart engaged in this way. It's all purifying. Sometimes we put a little bit too much emphasis on our ability to understand intellectually, but actually, it is the just like before the deity, one can give write a book or a lecture or what have you on what is the deity, but who realizes the deity? It is the one who opens their hearts, plain and simple. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada says, if you see deity as stone, deity remains stone. If you see deity as God, Krishna will reveal himself to you. So more than even our ability of, because the mundane mind, the condition of the mind of the conditioned soul, cannot conceive of so many of the absolute truth, so many aspects. But if the attitude is appropriate, that now I'm immersing myself, now my heart is being exposed, so to speak, coming in contact with this pure sound vibration. If the reverence is there, if the respect is there, if the worship is there, if the enthusiasm that now this is my opportunity to have this experience of being in touch with this transcendental sound vibration. Everything will be gradually revealed. We should have that faith. and continue in that way. Everything will work very nicely. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Ishan Prabhu. I appreciate the comments about how we should be consciously practicing our Krishna consciousness and what things we do, our sadhana and everything. I almost forgot, there was a question by Jairaj that I had alluded to earlier. He had written, Hare Krishna, I live in India and my brothers are living in USA and London, and they're expecting me to settle in USA. I don't want to leave India because I fear for my fall down. But they say bhakti can also be done living in USA, and disciples of Prabhupada are also living in abroad. So can you please guide me what Srila Prabhupada Swami instructed Indians? Can they settle for job in USA, leaving India, and do bhakti there? Or should I stay in India as I am born in India? Hare Krishna.
Well, you can practice Krishna consciousness anywhere, whether India or America. It depends on the consciousness. I mean, Prabhupada was practicing Krishna consciousness even in Vrindavan under very severe circumstances. I don't know if you ever lived in India. I mean, it seems you have. Vrindavan at the Radha Damodar temple was a very austere surrounding. We had a very interesting experience in 1973. We had gone, Guru Kripa Swami and myself, and the Namhata party collecting for the construction of the Krishna Balaram temple. When we came back to see Prabhupada in his room on the 31st of December, 1973, Prabhupada, as part of the discussion, asked us, so what do you do? What do you do when you go out? You have a van and you go out. What do you do? What time do you get up? So we explained Prabhupada our morning schedule, how we get up 3:30, 3:45, take a cold bath. And then we had Mangal Artik, we had prayers to Lord Nrsimha, Tulsi worship, Japa, Bhagavatam, Cook Prasadam, all these things. And Prabhupada says, yes. He says, when I used to live at Radha Damodar, I used to also take cold bath every single day. But cold bath at Radha Damodar in the winter was pretty cold, pretty austere. And Prabhupada, you know, it says in the Vedas, if you take cold bath during a Brahma Muhurta, you will prolong your duration of life. So you keep doing that. And Prabhupada was happy. Then Prabhupada asked us, so what do you eat? I said, well, we cook khichdi every day. He says, oh, well, Guru Kripa explained, we cook rice and the dal, and we put sometimes a little bit of peas, cauliflower, potatoes, and we'll put a little bit of ghee, we offer it to the deity, and this is what we do. Prabhupada says, oh, you know, in India, the sadhus, they cook this khichdi every day. And most of these sadhus, they're very healthy. They never get sick. So you keep doing that. So there's a lot of things you can do with your health, whether you're in India or in America. But the practice of Krishna consciousness begins with the chanting. That's why the process, Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing from the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, and chanting the name of Krishna. This is very important because then everything will come out properly. All success will be there by submissively hearing from the Acharya. And that's why in the beginning, when I was a devotee in Montreal, there was a devotee named Sripati, and had very experiences with him. He was he took me under his wing and used to give me very good instructions. And one time I says, well, shouldn't we do this way, that way? He says, no, we don't do things like that here. He says, what we do is we follow the principles and we don't engage in mental speculation. He says, mental speculation is where we let our mind invent things that are not in the proper way. We follow the instruction of the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. And this was a very interesting experience because this is very important, because devotees many times will manufacture interpretations which have nothing to do with the teachings and instructions of Srila Prabhupada. That this is the tendency of all conditioned souls, not just beginning devotees, even many we've seen, practically speaking, after the departure of Srila Prabhupada in 1977, how many senior devotees, many experienced devotees started to engage in mental speculation, concocting and inventing different interpretations that were not there in Prabhupada's instructions. Prabhupada one time complained about that with his godbrothers. He says, I'm always afraid of this great cracks of devotees interpreting the instructions of the Guru Maharaj, the instruction of the spiritual master for sense gratification. So best thing to do is to hear nicely, chant nicely, follow nicely, and then everything will gradually come together. Associate with devotees and everything. This will be very beneficial for you. I want to address another point that somebody said about installing deities. Well, usually installing deities, you have to receive Brahminical initiation, second initiation. That is the standard and proper name. I'm quite aware nowadays that many people just put deities on the shelf and they think this is a deity here. Well, you can have a picture of Krishna. You can keep what's called a pratima, or an uninstalled deity on the shelf. There's nothing wrong with that, but that is not the proper standard. First, you should become initiated properly. Then you should ultimately get a second initiation after following for 6 months to a year properly. Then you can install the deity properly. We had a devotee recently in Bombay, Rupa Goswami, who is one of the major participants in our program and organizers. He had installation of Gorditai. Very beautiful installation. There is pictures and videos. And I had a very interesting discussion for him a few weeks before of what to do, what mantras to chant, how to do the Abhishek, how to do everything, because the technical way of installing deities is a 3-day process. But Srila Prabhupada, if you look at some videos on YouTube, how Srila Prabhupada did it, a lot of time he did it in 1 hour. He had Abhishek of the deities with 5 substances, milk, yogurt, honey, sugar, water, and honey, like that. And basically chanting, decorated the deities and offered. I heard a story one time from Achyutananda Swami, who told me that he spoke to a direct disciple of Bhaktivedanta, Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, who one time installed a deity just by putting a tulsi leaf at Krishna's feet. Of course, that is His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. We cannot imitate that. But generally, in order to install the deity pran pratishtha the proper way, is you should be first initiated, second initiated. Otherwise, you can keep a picture on the shelf, or you can keep a pratima, which is an uninstalled deity. You can have it there, but that is not the proper way of doing deity worship. So there's a clear difference. The very clear difference in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Sanskrit word is there, pratima. Pratima is different than a murti. Murti means a properly installed deity according to the instructions of the Acharya. That's why it's called pran pratishtha, infusing life into the deity by sacred hymns, by mantras, by following the direction of the Acharya and everything. It's a very long process, very blissful process. And basically, Prabhupada showed us that there had to be an abhishek. There should also be a fire sacrifice. But the abhishek, the bathing ceremony, is the main thing. So if you can follow this process, that is highly recommended, and hopefully it's worked nicely for you. Thank you very much. Back to you. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Prabhu. Before you do the final announcements and the prayers to the devotees, I just wanted to acknowledge all the wonderful devotees. There are many wonderful devotees present here. Maybe if they would like to say anything. Mother Rachisha Devidasi in Montreal, Vijay Pandit Prabhu in Italy, Mother Andabhaya and her husband Jiva Goswami Prabhu in North Carolina, Rupa Goswami in Bombay. If anybody wants to say a few things or give some nectar. Yes, Ishan Prabhu.
On the question of whether a person who is living in India has grown up in India, I think many of you will immediately remember or recognize what I'm saying. That Srila Prabhupada says, not that it's safe or unsafe, but it is the duty of every Indian to spread Lord Chaitanya's movement all over the world. It is the duty of every Indian. He was trying to inspire them that you have this great gift, you're born in the land of Bharat. And you have this great cultural and spiritual gift which is so much needed all over the world. Therefore, you should accept it as your duty to go everywhere in the world and spread this Krishna consciousness like that. That's another point of view.
Very nice. Thank you for that comment. I just want to point out one devotee, part of this program, Jahnava Dāsa Prabhu. He's in Edison, New Jersey. He'll be receiving his second initiation on the 2nd of May, and we greatly appreciate presence. And also Dr. Roy in Mississippi, who has been attending this program for quite some time. Andabaya Mataji, maybe you'd like to give us your brief bhashya, brief commentary. Hare Krishna. Kindly enlighten us. Go ahead, Mataji. Would you like to speak something?
Mother Rachisha is.
Okay.
I really appreciate those pastime about the associates of Lord Chaitanya. And the other day we had the Appearance Day of Gadadhar. And during the week I was studying Chaitanya Bhagavata, and I get on the Gadadhar was going to see the Kazi. And after I heard about Gadadhar was going to eat with Lord Chaitanya, cooking for him. So I think it helps me to connect the dots, to understand all those pastimes. I don't consider them to be past 500 years ago or whatever. For me, it's present. It's present on my study, and it helps me very much in understanding Srila Prabhupada too, because it was associated with those great souls. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. And Mother Andabaya is unmuted now. Maybe she can say something.
Thank you. I kept pushing the unmute button, but it wouldn't unmute. So I appreciate you. Thank you. Let's see. I really have not thought of anything to speak about. Oh, yeah, no, we're just really happy to have the original books in Krishna's store, and would encourage anybody here watching to either buy from the group here, Hare Krishna Society, or if it's easier, go to krishnastore.com and get your original Daily Bhagavatams. Thank you, Prabhu.
That's very kind of you. Thank you very much for that comment. As mentioned by Mataji here, we have still the first reprint of the 1962 original Bhagavatam. It's available, Krishna Store. You can also contact us, either myself or Ram Raghava or Krishna Katha. So we will arrange to provide you. If you like to become a distributor, we can also arrange for that too. And thanks everybody for participating, particularly Vijay Pandit Prabhu in Italy, who has been very instrumental in preaching Krishna consciousness and going to villages in northern Italy and other places, distributing books and keeping active in preaching Krishna consciousness. We greatly appreciate his program. Rupa Goswami in Bombay, who carries on a very nice, exemplary program of deity worship, as I mentioned, with his installation. And so many devotees who participate. And next weekend, I will be in Edison, New Jersey, and we will have the initiation on Saturday, May 2nd at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We will also have the Bhagavatam class on Sunday from Edison, New Jersey. But on Saturday, there will be a brief reading of Bhagavatam at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And at about 8:20, 8:25 in the morning, we will carry on a program of initiation. Several devotees will receive first initiation. Several devotees will receive second initiation. And I believe there will also be a marriage ceremony of one Bhakta Ryan and his good wife, Bhaktin Maria. So we invite all of you to participate. We will be sending more information, how to link. It probably will be a very similar link to what we have today. But we thank everybody for participating in the program and all the comments. And we can assure you that we're trying to make this as interesting as possible and trying to deal with all the question, comments, even admonishments or chastisements are always welcome as well.
And Vijay Pandit Prabhu unmuted his microphone. Believe he has something to say.
Good.
No, Hare Krishna Prabhus. I have just a small question that my wife made. And Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, you was talking about Tirtha. So the places where Srila Prabhupada went, all this became a Tirtha, a holy place. So you can bring the ashes of your relatives in this place, in the river of this place, in the sea of this place. So because Srila Prabhupada 1974 came to Rome, Italy, and there is a river that is crossing, famous river that's crossing the city, big city, 4 million people. So my wife wants to understand if all the city of Rome and the river is considered a holy place.
Technically, yes. Prabhupada blessed the place, not just the place where he visited, but the entire area. That is the power like that. There is even mention, for example, in the Hari Bhaktivedanta, that wherever you keep Tulsi, either Tulsi beads or Tulsi leaves or Tulsi remnants, that also is a very sacred place, and everywhere around for so many miles or so many directions, it becomes purified. So Prabhupada's visit to Rome was most auspicious. The river, the city, everything becomes very, very auspicious. And if you have ashes of relatives, I mean, I don't know if the government will allow this, but you can toss the ashes in the river. And this way that, you know, everything becomes sanctified. Is that clear? That's what that verse says from the Bhagavatam, Tirti Kurvanti Tirtani. Everything becomes purified. Just like, for example, in Los Angeles, there's a park called Cheviot Hills Park, which is a park near Beverly Hills. And probably it's a very beautiful park. And many times in the morning, we had the opportunity to go with Prabhupada on the walk. And that Prabhupada walked all over the park. That's also become a tirtha. Of course, mundane persons may not appreciate this or accept this, but we as Vaishnava devotees accept this. This is a very, very special understanding of the power of a pure devotee. Very special. For those of you who may not have this book, we have a little book here, which is basically a publication of Hare Krishna Society called Acharya for the Golden Age. This was compiled by my lowly self, along with great help from Narasimha Prabhu in Hawaii. And basically it explains the very unique special position of Srila Prabhupada. So we encourage you. It's a very small book, but it has many quotations from Prabhupada explained. For example, Prabhupada explains in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1347, the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, descends by his will to the material planets in his innumerable incarnations for particular purposes. And again, he goes back to his own abode. When he descends, he is called an avatar because avatar means one who descends. Neither the Lord himself nor his specific devotees who come to this earth are ordinary living entities like us. This is a nice description of the position of Nitya Siddha devotees like Srila Prabhupada. You can obtain this book from us. You can write to us and we'll make arrangement to provide you a copy. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Back to you in the studio. Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaham. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone just like desire trees and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks Ram Raghava for managing the program, Rupa Goswami and Mambe, Rochisa Mataji de la Belle Province de Quebec, Andabaya Mataji and her good husband Jiva Goswami Prabhu in North Carolina, and all the devotees who participate regularly in this program, Rupa Goswami Prabhu and Ishan Prabhu with a very nice, inspiring commentaries, Krishna Katha Prabhu in Colorado with the beautiful of Lord Chaitanya behind your head, and all the devotees who participate. Please join us next Saturday morning at 8 o'clock Eastern Time we will have a Bhagavatam reading, and we have a fire sacrifice and initiation ceremony. And the next day, well, from Edison, New Jersey, we will have Srimad Bhagavatam reading. On that day, we will be celebrating the appearance day of Lord Narasimha, and also the disappearance day of the Jayananda Prabhu, who departed one day before Narasimha Chaturdasi. Narasimha Chaturdasi occurs on Thursday, April 30th, and we will be celebrating it on the Sunday with a nice reading about Lord Narasimha. Thanks, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I'd also like to ask for the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas for my father, Viprahita Das, and my mother, Rasikeshwari Devi Dasi. Father is not keeping good health. He's going through some difficult times. So I'd like to ask everybody to please keep them in their prayers. Hare Krishna.
Will do.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Hare